Hey guys, what's up? It's Zyflin here, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Astilla, the new shotgun that came with Gara and the PoE update. You wouldn't actually think that this weapon is a shotgun just by looking at some gameplay of it because of how it fires, like the projectiles and stuff like that. But the weapon is really cool. It kind of looks like a shotgun, just like the aesthetic of it. If you want to take a look, you see it has like a really cool looking drum mag and stuff like that. Kind of reminds me of the Striker from Modern Warfare 3, if anyone was around to play that. But overall, this weapon is very fun to use. It's very effective, and the sound of it and just the effects of like the glass smashing whenever the projectile like hits a floor or a wall is kind of like really impressive. I don't know. I just think that this weapon and Gara's other two weapons were very well designed, and it really just fits the theme of the frame. It makes me more excited to get like more weapons that are based around the frame's design because of how cool these ones turned out. So I'm super excited to see what D have in store next for the next frame, whatever that may be. But other than that, let's just actually talk about the weapon, how actual like good it is, I guess. So we can take a look at the stats to begin with. So like I said, it is a shotgun. This with the full build on. It has accuracy of 25, a critical chance of 17, crit multiplier of 1.9. We have the fall off right here, which I'm assuming is in meters. We have the fire rate, which is 4.33, a magazine size of 16, which is pretty good. Of course, it's alarming. We have a reload speed of about 2 seconds. Riven disposition is 4, which is actually really cool. It means that you can get some very powerful rivens for this weapon. We have 100% status chance with this build, and we obviously have the sort of like firing mode, which is automatic. On this build, I'm running Blast, which is 2.4k damage, Impact 499, Puncture 300 damage, and then Slash 357. On top of that, we have Corrosive, which is 2.8. So that means Corrosive is going to be our like most procced damage type whenever we're like applying status effects and stuff like that. Blast coming in at second place, and then obviously we have our Slash coming in at third. So we have a very good combination of different like IPS and elemental combos on here, which basically means that enemies like heavy gunners, etc., are basically just going to be shredded by this weapon. Obviously, this weapon isn't going to be something like the Tigris Prime, but it's very close. I'm not too sure what the build requirements are or how you get your hands on this weapon. I'm assuming you can either get it from the market or maybe the Tenno Lab in your clan's dojo. But, it is a very good weapon, and if you can craft it as a newer player, I highly recommend it because, one, the build is very easy to put together, right? All you need to have is like 190% elemental damage mods such as Contagious Spread. Obviously, I have free Contagious Spread on here to get more damage on my Corrosive, so it procs Corrosive the most, because how status work is like the damage type with the most damage is the one that is most likely to be procced, if you haven't figured that out already. So you throw that on there to sort of up your Corrosive damage, and then you just kind of continue on and throw on your 100% status. You throw on Shell Shock, you throw on your Toxic Barrage. I threw on Blaze here to get more damage on top of, the heat damage that it gives. Then Frigid Blast to make my blast damage with another Scattering Inferno on there to up my damage even further. Hell's Chamber, obviously, for the multi-shot, and then Prime Point Blank for the base damage of the shotgun itself, which is actually pretty cool. Now, you can change things out on this build if you want to. Like, you could change Blaze out for something like, Sweeping... Well, not Sweeping Serration. Maybe you could if you really wanted to, but I don't recommend using Sweeping Serration because, I mean, you have to, like, have a weapon where 90% of the weapon's total damage is in that certain, like, IPS stat. To use like something like Sweep Inspiration where you get 120% slash damage, because how these mods work is it's like 120% off the base stat that it is that you're trying to like add on top of. So it'll take 120% off your maximum slash stat and then add that on top. So unless like your weapon is mainly slash damage, you don't want to use this mod. So ignore what I said about using that. That was just kind of a mistake on my part. But Seeking Fury, this is a mod that you may want to use because, I mean, just because of how this weapon works, I could see myself using Seeking Fury, not for the reload speed, but, like, let's say I was playing, like, a corrupted defense, I would like to have Seeking Fury on just to kind of, like, shoot through multiple enemies because it's cool to do, right? Just killing multiple enemies with one bullet or one glass shard in this case, it's just a cool effect, right? And then having that Seeking Fury reload speed on top of that, it just makes the weapon feel a lot better, So, But other than that, like, this is the build that I would run if you want to get like maximum damage out of it, and if that's like the only thing you care about, then this is what I would run. Obviously, you can run something like a viral radiation build if you just kind of like swap the elements around a little bit, and that's totally fine as well. But this is going to be the build that I'm running in today's video, and we're going to be testing this out versus a level 150 heavy gunner. So let's just go ahead and spawn him in. You'll notice that whenever I'm killing this guy, you know, it's not the Tigris Prime, you know. It'll strip his armor, it's going to knock him down. You're going to kill him about 2 free magazines, depending on how good your slash procs are. You know, so there we go. We killed him in 2 magazines. You had your blast procs, you had your corrosive procs, and you had your slash procs all working in conjunction with one another to kill the enemy, right? You're stripping his armor, and because you're stripping his armor, every shot you land is going to deal more damage. You have the blast proc to kind of crowd control him, and then you have obviously the slash proc to kind of eat away at his health, even if you're not like, you know, shooting at him or something. So let's say you get knocked down by like a bombard or something. That's why your slash procs are super important, because it's constantly dealing damage and it's adding to your overall DPS. But you know, if you threw something like a buff into the mix, like let's say we were to use Gara's 2 on him, where it's doing constant damage over time as well, you get a damage multiplier, things like that. Use your other abilities like maybe Nova M Prime or whatever. This gun goes from being like somewhat mediocre to like almost like a god gun, because just the, you know, how it feels really. Like, I would maybe consider using this weapon over the Tigris Prime in a few cases, just because I like how this weapon feels. It has a higher magazine size, I can land more consecutive shots, things like that, and it just feels like a better weapon to me. Obviously the Tigris Prime is great because it like one-shots people, but you know, it's all down to the player really, and how they like their weapons to feel, I guess. You know, maybe you don't understand that if you're watching this and you've never played Warframe before. But, you know, certain weapons just click with certain players, and that's totally fine. What you will notice, though, this is just something I noticed, that whenever you actually go ahead and you use Gara's 4 on him, like if he's frozen, standing still like this, you actually don't get to proc any status effects on him. So, you know, you're going to be dealing a lot less damage. So make sure that you are basically like allowing yourself to proc status effects on the enemies. Otherwise, this weapon's going to be trash, because the status effects are really what allows this weapon to be great, because obviously the damage stat isn't that high compared to something like the Tigris Prime, of course. So, you know, that and the ammo capacity isn't that high either. So you see that we only have like, you know, what, 48 shots left. So rest in peace, that guy. But, you know, so you want to make sure that you're allowing yourself to slash proc them and stuff like that there. So don't use any CC, which is going to make it so that you can't like proc status effects. Just put yourself in a position where you can proc status, and then you should be good to go. So let's go ahead and crowd control him with Gara's 3. This is where he shoots himself and he deals damage to himself. And then what we can do is we can cast our 2 on ourselves and on him, and then we're going to deal a lot more damage, because that's going to deal constant damage over time. And it's also going to give a damage multiplier as well as the fact that he's blinded by Gara's passive too, which is basically like a percentage chance to blind. So you can see how just like using a Warframe ability or something will, you know, increase your DPS significantly with this type of weapon, right? So let's take, for example, let's use Nova, you know, just go ahead and cast M Prime and see how quick he dies this time. So go ahead, simulate. We're going to cast M Prime. We're going to let it hit him. We're going to run up to him. We're going to lay into him. Obviously, you know, it's not crazy insane DPS or anything like that there, but he will die relatively quickly, implying you're hitting his head. I'm not hitting his head that much, but you can see how your damage just kind of continuously ramps up as you're shooting at him, because of like how efficient you are at kind of like proccing his armor away and stuff like that. But honestly, guys, it's a really good weapon, and I recommend picking it up as soon as you can. I just think it's really cool. It's a really cool design. It's different. It's unique. It's a shotgun, for crying out loud, and you can run 2 very simple but 2 very effective builds on it, which makes it even better, you know. So what I would do if you were going up against, like, let's say, for example, enemies with no armor whatsoever, you would run something along the lines of, like, you know, radiation and viral damage, right? So let me just go ahead and unequip that and go ahead and throw on our prime point blank, our Hell's Chamber. And then what you want to be doing, in my opinion, is running viral as your dominant element. So you want to go with your contagious spread, and then throw on frigid blast, and then your Where is it at? I forget the name of the mod already. It is the dual stat toxin mod, toxic barrage. And then you want to go for your radiation damage, of course. So you're going to be wanting to run Blaze. You're going to want to run your Scattering Inferno, your Shell Shock. And then this is basically the build that you're going to be running. This is your Viral and Radiation build, which is pretty good. This is good versus enemies with no armor, as I said. So let's just go ahead and run Ash. And then use my Seeking Shuriken build. Let's see. Is this it? No, that's not it. Let's just go to config B. That's like a smokescreen build. Okay, here's one. This is decent. And I'm going to make them look better too, because I have a better looking Ash. There we go. Better looking Ash. Lamau. Go ahead and change the colors. And we're going to go ahead, simulate him, strip his armor away, and then see how effective this is. So you can see the damage now. Way better. Because, you know, obviously you don't have to deal with that armor being stripped away. You have the viral damage on there eating away at his health as time goes, plus the slash procs, plus the radiation procs, which acts as a form of CC as well because they're fighting one another. That'll also deal more damage versus the bombards. So you could actually mod, you know, radiation to be your more dominant element if you are going up against, like, you know, let's say bombards or whatever, and you want to like kill them. So let's go ahead on in the bombard, strip his armor away with our 1, and see how we go. So we basically just shredded that guy. So that guy was level 150, and just to demonstrate again how quickly we killed him, you know, it's kind of insane. Obviously with the Taker's Prime you'll do it in 1 or 2 shots, but this weapon is very close. Is very close. And I think on that note we're gonna end the video. Next video is gonna be on the Facili. These weapons, this thing right here, I think they are pretty dope. I haven't even got a full build on them, and these things already shred. Like, I haven't formed these yet, but this Astilla build is a 1 forma build, so it's pretty effortless to get the build, in my opinion. It might be a little bit harder to get the mods, but I mean, it just depends on the player and how much effort they put in, I guess. But anyway, guys, that is going to be it for this video. If you enjoyed it, hit that like button below, and if you want to see more Warframe content from me, hit subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.